I was thinking recently, I feel so incredibly bad for the well-behaved tourists that come and visit Japan. In the last few years, tourism in Japan has got absolutely insane. A couple years ago, if you hit up Shibuya on a Tuesday afternoon, the streets are going to be full, it's Shibuya, but it's not going to be insane. You can get into a store, you can grab some bevies, the road is going to be a little bit crazy, but generally, it's movable. It's not shoulder to shoulder. Recently, those crazy shoulder to shoulder, Saturday only Shibuya days are every single day. And Japan's really been struggling with that shitstorm. With so many tourists coming to Japan, I feel really bad for the good tourists here. The Japanese government, Japanese stores and locations, Japanese attractions, they're not creating laws and policies and banning people outright because of the actions of good tourists. No, it's the actions of bad tourists in Japan that's affecting everyone. There have been a few locations over the last few years that have outright banned tourists from entering. In April 2024, Kyoto's Gion district outright banned tourists from coming into certain areas in Gion. And those certain areas happen to be the areas that the geisha hang out in, or at least the geisha work in. Why were tourists banned from this location? Well, they got no manners. Remember, this isn't all of you. This is just bad manner tourists, but still, they've got no manners. People were shouting at the geishas, blocking their paths, hurling insults, littering on the streets. It wasn't a good location for the geishas to be working, and it wasn't good for the customers, because remember, geishas can be hired out. So much disrespect and misbehavior from quite a large swath of tourists, to be fair, have caused bans throughout Japan. Not just the most popular one, being 2024's Gion district in Kyoto. There are other locations all throughout Japan that are saying no to internationals. Sometimes it's a simple letter on the door. You walk past the store and it will say, Japanese only, no foreigners allowed. As an international person living in Japan, that hurts. That's a painful thing to see. That is some 1960s style segregation bullshit. As much as I want to rock into those stores, kick down the doors, screaming Japanese, there's no point. There's no point me raising a ruckus about the store owner deciding they don't want to serve foreigners anymore. When I used to see these signs, because remember, this isn't new. There's always been stores that have decided we just don't want to serve foreigners for whatever reason. Whenever I'd see these stores back in the day, I'd always think to myself, do you know what? It's kind of whatever. If they don't want to serve international clientele, that's perfectly okay. Let them do whatever they want to do. Their restaurant will close down in the next 5-10 years. It's Tokyo. Eventually, if you're not serving everyone, your restaurant is just gonna close. But in recent years, I've really changed my mind on this. Now, I'm not saying that I'm suddenly in agreement of weird segregated stores. What I'm saying is that there's been so many terrible tourists in Japan. When I see these stores, now what I think is, oh man, they must have served some really shitty foreigners there and they just had enough. Even if we serve 9 internationals and they're all amazing, the risk of having that one shithead in my store is so great, I would just rather not serve all 10. It's not worth the risk sometimes. And I kind of get that. For a lot of these stores, it's not worth the risk, it's not worth the stress. Now, in saying that, if you're a tourist coming to Japan and you do speak some Japanese and you see a store and it's like, hey, Japanese only, and you really did want to go into the store and you don't mind having to explain yourself in Japanese that, hey, we speak the language, we're just here to eat some of this dank udon, go for it. Dive in. I can't tell you how many times I've dived into a store and just gone, hi, 2人 onegaishimasu. And most of the time, I just swim right in. It's very rare they go, no foreigners. For a lot of these stores as well, it can just be communication. They don't speak any Japanese and they don't want to deal with having to print an English menu. They're afraid of getting something wrong or serving you something you're allergic to. So I kind of understand where a lot of these stores are coming from, but I'm going to circle back because I'm not trying to defend weird segregation. And also, it's a video about tourism, not a video about, weird stores being weird in Japan. The increase of terrible tourists in Japan does mean that you're gonna see a lot more locations banning tourists outright, similar to how Kyoto did in 2024. Watazumi Shrine. Does that mean anything to you? Probably not. But what if I call it by its name that you all know? The Ghost of Tsushima Shrine. Now I got you. Now you're interested. 2020, Ghost of Tsushima is released. This game was insanely popular, which also meant the locations in the game garnered a lot of international attention, especially Watazumi Shrine. Now, Watazumi Shrine isn't a major shrine in Japan, but it's pretty big in the area. Now, the issue is, it wasn't really prepared for a massive influx of tourism. If all these tourists were good tourists, lining up, throwing in their coins to the shrine, ringing that bell, making their wishes to the various kami-samas, everything would be okay, and this would be a non-story. No tourists would be banned, no people on the hate list. We'd all be chilling. But sadly, it's not. When it comes to popular locations in Japan, what normally happens is bus tour companies, both international and domestic, start setting up tours linking in those locations. And sadly, Watazumi Shrine was one of those locations. There was an influx of the worst kinds of tourists overwhelming this shrine. I'm talking smoking in the shrine, throwing litter around the shrine, spitting in the shrine. Fucking disgusting. You wouldn't spit in a church. Why would you spit in a shrine? Why would you spit anywhere near a place of worship? Why would you litter near a place of worship? It doesn't make any sense to me. But for some reason, a vast majority of tourists going down to Watazumi Shrine were just the lowest denominator of tourist you can have in Japan. Bad manners, no manners, just awful. There was even a report of a tourist riding a mountain bike through the restricted areas of the shrine. Can common sense please bless these people? There was also a little case of thievery where one of the awamoris, one of the good luck charms, was stolen from the shrine. Stealing a good luck charm? That's reverse good luck. That is the worst luck on you and your people. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. Back in 2020, Watazumi Shrine was already pissed. They decided they're gonna ban every single foreigner from the shrine. No foreigners allowed, kick them all out. We're not gonna have a single foreigner enter our precious shrine ever again. But they quickly backed away from that because this is a shrine, a place of worship, a place of like equality, yada yada yada. You can't have these grand sweeping bans on shrines, really. And a lot of people on social media were kind of pissed. They got hit with a racism hammer, which is, let me tell you, a very powerful hammer to get hit with. So they backed away. They said, fine, we'll give you all a second chance. Don't fuck it up. They fucked it up. They fucked it up so quickly. 2024, a measly 4 years later, Japan opened its borders once again. Tourists were flocking back into the country, which means they were going to Watazumi Shrine. And what happened? Yes, that's right. The shithead tourists entered the scene, smoking in the shrine grounds, throwing their cigarette butts away, once again creating a massive havoc similar to 2020. But this time, the shrine had had enough. They weren't going to make a sweeping ban on all foreigners visiting the shrine, but what they were going to do is ban anyone who wasn't a practitioner of the religion. It does seem like a grand idea. There were some issues. One of the biggest issues being that the shrine is just kind of open. This isn't like a Meiji Jingu Nezu Shrine or one of the big shrines in Kyoto where you have to pay a penance to get in and see the shrine. This is just an open countryside shrine. So you know what that means. There are no guards, there are no gates. It is just an open shrine. You can just waltz in, check the shrine out, and leave. No one's really going to stop you. This was a really interesting ban. This wasn't a ban on tourists alone. This was kind of a ban on everyone. Japanese travelers, tourists, domestic, international people who live in Japan, you're banned. You're not allowed to come visit the shrine unless you are a practitioner of the religion. They went one step further. This one step further, however, I kind of agree with. They said no more buses. Domestic, international, aqua, no more buses coming to the shrine. These buses are the worst things to happen to tourism in Japan since Johnny Somali. For anyone who's come across these buses, you realize they're a massive hindrance. They're really big, they're really slow, and they contain about 50 to 700 people who will all then begin to dive onto an area at the same time. It's honestly terrible. At the same time the shrine was making these sweeping bans, they also released a very important announcement. They said, as of today, Sunday, March 23rd, 2024, entry to the shrine's ground is forbidden to anyone who is not a parishioner or worshipper. In addition, all photography, video filming, and live streaming of the shrine's ocean torii gates, buildings, and structures is prohibited. In addition, all entry of domestic and foreign bus tours for sightseeing purposes will be rejected. Even though this was a sweeping ban on both domestic and Japanese tourists, they made it very clear that it was an international tourist who was the catalyst for this change. Their statement continues in saying that On Saturday, March 22nd at roughly 4 p.m, an immense and unforgivable act of disrespect by a foreign person took place at our shrine. We have repeatedly discussed such matters with Tsushima City Hall, the tourist agency, and the Nagasaki Prefecture Police. Damn. But have not been able to arrive at a solution. In addition to the mental anguish caused to our staff from the sacred grounds being violated, they have suffered repeated acts of verbal abuse and physical violence, accumulating in an administrative crisis for the shrine. At the end of the day, the shrine decided we're just going to make a sweeping ban for the protection of the shrine and also the mental health of the staff working there, because it must be a massive pain to have to go there every morning and clean like what? Kombini wrappers and onigiri paper and cigarette butts from what is meant to be a sacred location. Come here. Bad tourists in Japan, come here. Do better. You wouldn't do this in your home country, don't do it here. And if for whatever reason you do this in your home country, you keep that doo-doo at home. Don't bring it here. Different country, different culture. Let's learn about the new cultures before we dive into a new country. How about that, yeah? Huh? Various locations, stores in Japan have decided after the fact, do you know what? It's not worth the hassle, sweeping ban. If we can ban all the internationals, if we can ban all the tourists, we'll do that. If we can't do that, we'll ban everyone. These locations are perfectly okay making sweeping bans on everyone. A lot of these locations have survived thousands of years without tourists. They will survive thousands more without tourists. Like most countries, Japan is very much a country of they're going to decide how to move forward by looking at the events from the past. And when you look at tourism on a macro level, you see bad tourists doing bad thing as the top story. Good tourists doing good thing, you don't really see that. If I was a tourist who hadn't been to Japan yet, and I had a list of things I really wanted to do, I'd be so worried. Oh, I'd be so worried. We are going to eventually get into a situation where tourists are going to be banned from locations before those locations even open. I know what you're thinking, Jordan, why would Japan do that? Why would they ban tourists before the location even opens? Well, let me tell you. It's already happened. That is right, boys and girls, it has already happened. Shizuoka has a brand spanking new Gundam Museum. Stay with me on this one. Am I a Gundam fan? Not really. Are big robots cool? Yeah. When the laser sword goes pew 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 pew, is that a fun thing to watch on the anime? Granted. Do I personally want to check out this museum? I mean, not really, but I would have loved the chance for you, the viewer, the people, those who are interested in Gundam, to come and check out the museum. This museum is very much new. It opened around June 6, 2025, so last month, but what they've done is, they've not gone, hey, no foreigners allowed, you're banned. They've implemented some very hard checks to stop people who don't live in Japan getting tickets. First things first, it's a lottery system. Ooh, and if you know about lottery systems, they suck. You have to enter the lottery before the end of the month in order to win tickets for the next month or the month after that. Easy, right? No, that isn't the only step in place. You also have to have a domestic Japanese Bandai Spirits account. I know you're thinking, easy. I'll book early, I'll spoof myself a Japanese Bandai account, I'll use a VPN so I'm on the Japanese systems. When I book, it looks like I'm Japanese. Or if anything, I'll get a tour guide who's based in Japan and they'll book for us so we can enter the facility. No, because there's also a final step, ID checks. The final checks being ID checks seems pretty casual. However, when you hear what type of ID they want in order to enter the facility, you realize, oh yeah, this is definitely not aimed at internationals. You need to have either a My Number card, a driving license, passport, residence card, various health-issued insurance books, a pension book, student ID with photo, of course. All these IDs have to have photos. Now, a lot of these IDs are very much Japan specific. Apart from the passport, everything else is basically things you can only get if you are registered and live in Japan. It does appear that tourists will, after jumping through 1,000 hoops, be able to grab themselves a few tickets to check out the new Bandai Museum in Shizuoka. However, they've made it so difficult to get tickets if you're an international, it's kind of not worth the hassle. And I think that's how they want it. I'm a casual fan of Gundam, very casual, but I've checked out the big Gundam in Odaiba. Why? Easy to access, it's a big tourist location, looks cool. If in order to see that Gundam, I had to do any type of hoop jumping, I would have never seen that Gundam. If they had said to me, oh hey, you want to see the Gundam? Oh yeah, oh that sounds fantastic. I would love to see the Gundam. Oh dude, super easy. Fill out these forms and sir? Because at the end of the day, I'm not a super fan of Gundam. Kirby Cafe, however, I will jump through as many hoops as I need to jump through to go and see the Kirby Cafe. I'll get up at 5 AM and line up to see the Kirby Cafe. And I believe the Gundam Museum had the exact same thing in mind. If we put down enough hoops, only those who are truly fans of the series will jump through them in order to come to the museum. And I think that's fucking brilliant. It's a great plan. The only issue I can think of is that for the casual tourist, it's going to lessen the amount of things you can easily access when coming to Japan. But as long as we have a massive influx of terrible tourists in the country, you're gonna see more and more things being blocked off in this way. I even read a rumor a couple of weeks ago that Kyoto was thinking about implementing some kind of policy where the only way you as an international tourist to Japan can come into Kyoto is with a Kyoto-based domestic tourist group, like a tour guide. You can only have guided tours through Kyoto. It's an idea currently being discussed, and it's not the first time it's been brought up. People who live in Kyoto and have to deal with that daily influx of tourists are kind of sick of it. And I know that the concept of having a Kyoto where you can only enter it via a guided tour seems absolutely impossible. But you gotta remember, a couple of years ago, having a Gion district completely blocked off to internationals also seemed absolutely impossible. This is all in the realm of possibility. So what can we do? Well, if you're a tourist in Japan, I would say just make sure you're in your best behavior. And a lot of you guys watching this channel, I know you're in your best behavior coming to Japan. I've heard your stories, I've read your comments. You guys are really the shining example that other tourists really should be following. But if you are visiting Japan and you do see a tourist ignorant of some kind of cultural norm they're breaking, maybe tap them on the shoulder. Tell them to chill. Remind them of where they are. Remind them they're a guest of the country and an ambassador of not only themselves, but the country they are from. And they should at least try and be on their best behavior, especially when you're in a train or a shrine or a public place. Unless you're like in an izakaya or something. For some reason, rules don't really apply when you're in that situation. It's very peculiar. But guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you there. What prefecture do you think is gonna ban the tourists first? I think Kyoto, like deadly serious. I think Kyoto's gonna throw down the ban hammer and just ban all tourists. That is like my future prediction. 2027, 2028, we're either gonna see guided tours only in Kyoto, or they're just gonna ban all international tourists coming to the prefecture. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. But I'm gonna love you and leave you there, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.